28th of January. It's Wednesday morning. 2 Thessalonians 2:11. And for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie. What does the word delusion mean? Well, if you look up the word delusion, it says holding fixed false beliefs that contradict objective reality and evidence, often resisting all logic or proof to the contrary. A state of being deceived or misguided. Well, it says often having psychiatric conditions like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, though sometimes used informally to describe irrational behavior. That's the definition of delusion. Holding fixed false beliefs that contradict objective reality. You know, a lot of people today are delusional. They're totally delusional. They do not believe in reality. In fact, they deny reality. When you try to talk to them about the reality of things, they go off onto another fantasy world. There are people that are fantasizing about reality. A lot of people are living in a state of delusion. And when you try to reason with them, it makes it worse. It makes it worse. You know, when you try to be a truth teller, they come up against the truth. I believe we're living in the times where God is sending people strong delusions if they would believe a lie. One of the biggest delusions that God has sent millions of people is that they have a free will. They can determine their own destiny. That they're in charge. Not only are they in charge of this life and things that happen to them in this life, but they're also in charge of their future life by their decisions, by letting Jesus do something, by them authorizing Jesus to do something. The last time I checked, He is the author and finisher of our faith. You know, we're not the author. I've written 5 books, but God authored all of them. You know, you say, well, what about evil? What about evil, Larry? Well, go to Isaiah 45. Now, a lot of people change Isaiah 45, don't they? In fact, they say it means something totally different than it does. But I don't believe it means anything different than what's written there. You know, people say, well, God's not the author of sin. God didn't authorize evil. Well, if God didn't authorize it, who did authorize it? He's the one that created Lucifer, isn't he? He says in verse 7 of Isaiah 45, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. Well, He says He creates evil there. People say, oh, that means like tornadoes and hurricanes and pestilences and all of that. That's not what it says. In fact, he says he's even made the wicked for the day of evil. And it says that he's wrought all of our works in us. That's what my Bible says. But see, that's the delusion people have bought into. That they can control all of these things, you know. And that's why you have some of the most wealthy, powerful people in the world now giving $1 billion to be on a peace board. $1 billion to be on the peace board. Proverbs 16:4, the Lord hath made all things for himself, yea, even the wicked for the day of evil. Well, he's going to send them strong delusion that they will believe a lie. You know, strong delusion. That's what it is, strong delusion. He says of himself, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but by me. You can't do anything unless God ordains it. And but a lot of people believe that, you know, they can have spiritual life by exercising something they don't even have, which is free will. They don't have free will. You know, it doesn't exist. Never has existed, never will exist. You know, Lucifer thought he had a free will. He said, I will arise and be as God. Didn't work out too good for him, did it? There's a lot of people right now that have that same attitude. They're going to rise and be as God. You know? Either man's in control or God's in control. You say, well, we're cooperative agents with God. The Bible says that all men have turned away from God. It says all we like sheep have gone astray. We've turned every one to his own way. It also says that all men have sinned and come short of the glory of God. Well, that's what's on my mind this morning. We're living in times of strong delusion. And many people have bought into the lie that they're in control and not God. May the good Lord be with you today in a special way is my prayer. God bless.